Lots of good questions. We're going to go ahead and record this so that everyone has a chance to read back through this afterward. Today, we are grateful to be with you all for the next hour, answering questions, talking through the application process, telling you a little bit more about Impact 100. And we're so grateful also to be joined by John Dance, who will be sharing a little bit about his experience as part of Impact 100 Atlanta's grant recipient back in 2023. We're so thrilled for him to share with you all a little bit about his story. We have lots of information to cover. We'll hope to hit it pretty quickly for you, though, so that there's time for you to ask questions in the chat or in the Q&A function that you see below your screen. As I mentioned earlier, this is being recorded, and we'll also share this out with everyone following this meeting, and also have that available on our website, too, as you work through the application process. So to get us started, I'd love to pass it over to Sarah Levitt, who is our founding and immediate past president. Sarah, if you don't mind telling us a little bit about your vision for Impact 100 Atlanta and how we all got started.
Thank you, Mackenzie. Absolutely. So hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are excited to speak with you about the grants we're looking to fund this year. And I'll just give a brief background about Impact 100 Atlanta. So our mission is that we are a group of women, and we are funding grants in the Atlanta community to make it a better place. And these grants are transformational, high impact, and sustainable, which Mackenzie will get into in more detail a little bit later. So a little bit of history about Impact 100. Impact 100 Global was founded by Wendy Seal in 2001 in Cincinnati. And the barriers she was looking to overcome were women getting involved in philanthropy and also nonprofits needing significant grants in the community. Impact 100 Atlanta was founded in 2022, so this is our 4th year. And we join over 70 chapters around the world who have donated over, I think it's closer to $160 million to their communities now. So that number is growing quickly, which is amazing. And in Atlanta, this is a very exciting year. It's our 4th year of funding. And to date, we've awarded $730,000 to 7 organizations. And this year, very exciting news, we will be awarding 4 $89,000 grants. This is our first year that we're awarding 4 grants, and we are passing the $1 million mark of giving this year. So very exciting year for us, and excited to fund more projects this year.
Thanks, Sarah. We are so grateful for your leadership in starting this off a few years ago and inspiring all of us to join you in this work. So just like Sarah, there are several other folks behind the scenes who are here to support you all in this grants writing process. So just wanted to talk through everyone's roles here on the screen. So you've met Sarah. She is our founder and immediate past president. Sharonda Roach is our current president. And Laurie Sheehan, I don't have her name on this screen, but she's also a powerful voice. She's our vice president this year and playing a really key leadership role in this work. We also have our grants chair. So I should have introduced myself on the front end. I'm honored to serve as a grants co-chair this year. In my 2nd year, Jill Henry is also serving as grants co-chair. Jill is specifically here to support you all as nonprofits. And I'm here to help oversee and support the application process. So as you move through this application season with us, you will hear from both me and Jill quite a bit. If you are one of our lucky folks who moved from LOA to application, you will also spend time with our grants focus area chairs. You see them here on the screen. We have arts and culture, environment, recreation and animal welfare, education, health and wellness, family, and then Allison Anderson serves as grants finance. It works as a part of all of these groups. So know that there are lots of voices out there that are here to help you in this work. If you do move forward to application, you'll learn that we quickly see all of the nonprofits that we get a chance to work with in this application process as part of our family. So you'll have your own champions across the board in this work. If you have any questions throughout this process, please send them to Jill or myself, and our email is grants@impact100atlanta.org. I'll drop that in the chat later, but if you have any questions at any point in this process, Jill and I will both respond to that email, and we can support you to make this as easy as possible. In my other work during the day, I get to participate in supporting lots of nonprofits in their grant writing efforts. And I will say that Impact 100 Atlanta has a really special way of doing this. We see you all as partners in this. We're here to help make sure your application's as strong as it can be as it's getting reviewed by these wonderful women out in the community. So please don't hesitate to reach out. We are here to support you. I see a few hands getting raised. Hopefully you all have an opportunity to drop a question in the chat or the Q&A section, but after we run through these slides, hang on to those questions and we'll jump through all of them. I want to make sure we get a chance to jump into everything. So just a quick reminder on what this looks like overall. In our grants process, there are 5 areas, as I just mentioned, that you get to apply to: arts and culture, education, environment, recreation, and animal welfare, family, health, and wellness. And we'll talk a little bit about what each of those means as we work through this process. The timeline that you all can anticipate it flows over the summer and into the fall. So applications, LOIs open today. We will have those live on our website through Submittable, where you can submit information there. And those are due on the 5th. It's a quick turnaround. There's a PDF of the LOI on our website now. It's been up for the month of April. So you're welcome to go in there and click through any questions, see what it is in advance. But this LOI is very short. Our hope is that it gives you an opportunity to just inspire us through 10 questions. There's background information on you as an organization, but then about 10 questions that will ask you to describe this opportunity. And then from there, we'll let you know by end of May if you're moving forward to application phase. Application phase is a little bit longer of an application, and we usually give you at least 3 months, or I'm sorry, 3 weeks to spend time writing that application. Once applications are in, our focus area committee is what you just saw, a group of incredible volunteers come together to review all of those applications. It usually takes, I'd say, probably about 4 to 6 weeks for us to review all of those applications and then notify you if you're moving forward to site visit. Those site visits should happen in August. And then by September, we are selecting our finalists who will present at the Meet the Finalist event, and then finally move forward to the big give in November. So just a quick run through of all of the eligibility requirements as we think about the type of organization that we are hoping for applications from. You must be a 501c3 organization. You must serve in the 11 Metro Atlanta County area, and you must have 3 years of independently audited financial statements. I think this is one that we often get quite a bit of questions about. We know that it is not a requirement in the state of Georgia for organizations under $1 million in their annual budget to have audited financials. That is a requirement for us, however, as we think about being good stewards of the dollars that have been given to us. So I know that's one part where we always have conversations around. If you don't meet that 3 years of independently audited financial statements, what can be really helpful is for you to partner with another organization that does fit that and submit a grant together. So then as we look forward to the types of projects that we're looking for, this is just an overview at a high level of what we'll be looking for. You must serve residents again in that same area. We're focused on Metro Atlanta here. We'll spend some more time in this, and I really encourage you to ask some questions in our Q&A around the type of project here, but it is a capital project, a new program, an expansion of an existing program, or a new or expanded collaborative effort across nonprofits. Sarah mentioned this earlier. We are really looking to make high impact and do something transformational with our dollars. So think of this not as filling your annual budget need, but really helping you take that next step or do something special. John can really share how they helped envision this beautiful vision of vessel of hope that we were able to fund to help you think through that process. This year, the total project budget for each of the 4 grants that we'll be able to give out is $89,000. So the budget needs to total that, and we'll ask you to spend that within 2 years. So project types, there's these 5 definitions, and since we're recording this, I'm sorry, I'm going to read it for you just so we can all go back to this. We'll send this in recap for you all as well so that you can remember this. But these are the 5 definition or 5 terms that we are training all of our volunteers who will be reviewing the applications on. So as you think about writing your grant, and we have this in the application as well so that you can see it. But when we say high impact, Allie, I see your question about the annual meeting. I think you're asking about the one in November. I actually think that date is set, and I just don't have it top of mind for me. I believe it is November 2nd. It's a Sunday. You might be asking about a different one, but if type that in if you're asking about a different annual meeting. Okay, so high impact. High impact, we define this as someone who's making a significant impact, so either deep or broad on your target population. Do you have the data to track that work? Specific to this grant, will the impact of our investment be felt beyond the 2 years of our grant, both for the organization and for those that you serve? So think through that as you're thinking of projects. As we look at sustainability, this is something our finance team spends quite a bit of time looking at. So we're thinking about that both as an organization and as a project. As we look at you as an organization, we're going to be reviewing your past 990s and financials to understand if you can demonstrate fiscal discipline, years of being a good steward of donor dollars, and long-term sustainability. Do you have a strategic plan in place that shows a growth focus? Is there a strong, stable senior leadership team, both across board and staff? So there's a couple of questions that I'll ask you to speak to sustainability. That's what we're looking for in you as an organization. Specific to the project, that really comes down to the budget. Is this a one-time capital investment that you're asking us to invest in, or is it something that'll need to be funded year over year? And if so, what's your plan to do that? If it includes staff, and we'll talk a little bit more about this later, but we absolutely understand the need to have staff to ideate around a project, to implement new projects. And so we understand that that needs to be a part of the budget. I will tell you that if there is staffing in your budget, our finance team will go through a second layer of review to understand the sustainability of that position beyond our grant. There's language on this on our LOI as well, but just a note for you, we understand staffing needs to be a part of this, but as you're thinking through what your budget should look like, if you're going to include, the majority of your budget towards staffing and then overhead, that leaves very little room for us to look at what is making a direct impact beyond those two line items on the budget. So think through what that looks like for you. And we want to know, again, that there's sustainable growth beyond this project, if there's any incurred expenses beyond this. So we think about transformational. We are prioritizing projects that are creating, sustaining, or expanding positive change. Who and or what will be changed because of this project? As we read through your application, can we walk away and say, this is going to have a lasting positive impact? That leads us into well-defined and viable. We want to make sure that as you write these applications, we are a bunch of really wonderful women that have a whole diversity of careers out in the community. Not everyone has spent time reviewing applications in the past or is familiar with your organization. Hopefully we are learning about some new organizations through this process. So as you think about that well-defined project, use plain speak as you're typing. Talk about this in a way for someone who's completely unfamiliar with your project, even if you're well known in the Atlanta community. Can we quickly articulate, after we've read your application, what you're going to accomplish and if this is clear and feasible? We want you to dream big, but we also want it to be possible so that we can partner with you in helping achieve this. Local, we've talked about this in a few different ways, but again, we're seeking for this project to serve those in the Metro Atlanta area. Next, what we won't support. Oh, I'm sorry. I want to touch on these again. So 5 focus areas, we've said these. So think within each of these. And again, this is something you may be an arts and culture education or an arts and culture organization, but you may choose to submit an application within the health and wellness focus area. This is about the project, not the organization. So spend time reading through each of these definitions as you think about where you should submit, and you get to select this. That is a specific committee that is focused on arts and culture, on education, on family, on environment, recreation, and animal welfare, health and wellness. They will be reviewing your application through that lens. I think last year we were reviewing a couple of applications that fell into the education category. And we were like, gosh, this really would have made more sense in health and wellness. But because it's in education, we are grading it against the rubric that we have here and the other applications we have in this category. So just be really thoughtful about which project to submit your application under. Okay, so what we won't support. I mentioned a couple of these, but just to hit them at a high level, general operating expenses and overhead. This is important. We know that this is critical for the organization. We don't want your full budget to be this. We understand that as you're creating a budget and a project, there is a need for overhead or administrative support in that. So we understand if you have a line item in your budget, that is a percentage, but the full budget should not be overhead or general operating expenses. We're not looking to fund debt reduction or grants to individuals or endowment. This is important to remember. We've had a couple applications for endowment funding. That is not part of what we're doing. We're not looking to do interim or bridge funding, so getting you in between projects, filling a past gap, filling an in-between need. We want to do something that's sustainable. We're not looking to fund any political activity. Capital projects that you might be proposing here, they need to have a long-term lease or owned property in this. So anything less than that, we won't review. We look to be inclusive and equitable in all of our applications. So as we review these, if an application is submitted by a church or a religious organization or a place of worship that is intended to only benefit a specific denomination, that's not a project that we would consider. Within faith programs or projects, again, if there's any requirement that in order to receive the benefits of this grant, you are from a particular faith denomination or religion, we won't accept that either. Again, we're looking to be inclusive and reach a wide variety of audiences in this group. So just quick logistics on the technical side of this. All applications will be submitted through the Submittable platform. If you have submitted with us in the past, this is the same one we've used year over year. It should be easy for you to set up. Feel free to go ahead and do that so that you're ready to go in. You can save and pause as you go. It should be relatively straightforward. Some tips and tricks as you're writing this. Again, just want to spend a little bit of time on that budget. I didn't look through our attendees to see if our dear Allison is on here. I might call her in, add more notes here, but again, we have a template. The first LOI is a very straightforward, easy budget. We will review that mostly to make sure that it's totally in the right amount and then it looks like it aligns with your narrative, it looks sustainable. Grants will be dispersed throughout that. Or in alignment with that, you have an opportunity to provide more information in the second budget, and we'll work with you once you're a grants partner to make sure that it's in a strong place. If modifications need to be made later in the process, it's not ideal, but we will work with you and our board to make sure that works through. I mentioned the staffing piece again, and I just want to remind you, the staffing can be included, but just really think through that sustainability lens. If I were to write an application that required a staffing position over 2 years, and if I wanted to illustrate sustainability in it, I may choose to put 40% of that person's costs in year one and then put 15% of it in year two or 25% of it in year two to show that I am slowly building that sustainability into my own budget. Again, these applications are being read by a bunch of incredible women who do not necessarily have a background in grants. Or have a background in nonprofits. We've got some brilliant attorneys and accountants and women making an impact in their individual fields. So just right through that lens, try to be as concise as you can and compelling. You were talking to this person you bumped into in an elevator. We have some really short limits in the first LOI phase. Feel free to use AI if that's helpful in shortening this process for you. And we're here to help in all of this. I'm going to pause really quickly and just check our Q&As before I pass it over to John to talk to us about what his process was like. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to see if I can read through these really quickly. The rubrics is a way for organizations who to determine the best categories. We are happy to help guide you through this process. I would say that the LOI category and the grants are the same one. So as you go into it, I would just select the one that feels most compelling. They are only reading through it on that end. So if you want to, the grants assessment process is the same within each category, but if I am reviewing to see what's most compelling within environment, but you're talking a lot about, for example, health and wellness and mental health, just make sure that you are submitting it in the category where you feel like it'll be most compelling. I'll say that we often have a ton of applications in the education space, and we don't have as many in the environment recreation and animal welfare space. So if you think it can be compelling in there, you might take the odds and do it that way. I see a question here. If you have a submittable account for another funder, you should be able to still add, if you click on our link, Amy, to make a submission, you should still be able to go through, but shoot Jill or I an email if you have any questions there. Someone asked a question, since we're a group of women, do we have a preference for projects supporting women and girls versus other populations? I would say no. We spend quite a bit of time training all of our volunteers to look at this through an equitable lens. I know we all come in with our own biases, but every woman is coming in with their own background. I was just talking with someone about a compelling project that supports keeping family units together with the father when the mother isn't present. So it can be open to anyone. It's open for whoever is in here. So I would say we support all different types of organizations. I'm going to pause on questions and let John speak, and then we'll jump back into those. So John, I'll invite you in. And then we will start jumping through our questions. So John Dance, we're so thrilled that he's with us today. He was he applied in the 2023 cycle and submitted this really wonderful Vessel for Hope that we were so honored to be able to support. So John, I'll let you take it away.
Okay. You took me off a video. How do I get back? There I go. Okay. You want me there? Okay.
That's perfect. Thanks, John.
All right. Okay. Hi, everyone. This is John again. I'm the executive director for Fully Furnished Ministries. So a little bit about what we do. For more than 2 decades, Fully Furnished Ministries has stepped in to bring hope and dignity to families who are coming out of crisis. We help them with what we call lightly used furniture. So we partner with other nonprofits, which is a little bit different from most nonprofits. And as they are working with someone, they'll learn that they don't have furniture or they need furniture. And then they'll contact us, and then we in turn bring that furniture to those families free of charge. So last year we delivered to about 543 families throughout the Atlanta area, and we picked up from another 900 families to make that cycle. So we pick up the furniture, work on it, and deliver to those families as they have a need. So my experience with Impact Atlanta was very robust. That's how I would categorize it. In the spring of 2023, a friend of a friend who knew someone on the Impact Atlanta team emailed me about this grant, which I had not seen, and where 3 lucky winners would get a grant of $91,000. Now I thought, wow, this is going to be a cakewalk. I got an inside scoop. It's just a grant. So my whole thing was copy, paste from another grant into that grant, which is what a lot of stuff that we do. Because a lot of times they ask the same information, but nothing could be further from the truth. As I got into this grant process, I could never imagine what journey, even up to this day, that this would take me on, not only for me personally, but also for our organization. So our project description was around, fell into the family project area. And our project was what we called was Fully Fulton. And here what we did was we were looking at and challenged with, we're in Gwinnett, and how do we get further into the inner, how do we get further inside into the inner city? And we were struggling with that because we just couldn't move quick enough. And for the need, we saw the needs growing there because that's where a lot of the housing, more affordable housing, more housing was available for clients. And so they were going further into that area. And while we were up in Norcross, a lot of them are down in South Fulton. So we came up with, how can we, these 11 zip codes that we knew we had to go into. They had the highest demand for families, and we wanted to be a part of that because it's what we do. We're only one of 2 organizations that really kind of do what we do. So we knew there was a big need there. So to make this jump and achieve success and sustainability, we needed 3 things. We needed this vessel of hope, which I didn't name it that. They named it that. I tell you, they're in your business. Okay, you need to get ready for them because they're in your business. All right, they call it the vessel of
In the
hope.
best way
In the
possible,
best
John.
way, so definitely in the best way. They're going to be in your business. So they named it Vessel of Hope. We asked for a van so that we could be faster in getting further out into these locations. We asked also as a part of that to purchase commercial grade tools. So this will help us to work on furniture, which we do, work on it faster, bigger items, work on it faster, and to be able to have the quantity that we were going to need for the additional 80 families we were looking at in the first year to be downtown in Atlanta. So, and then the last thing was we needed help with marketing because we had to develop an infrastructure down in that area because we're not down there. So we had to develop infrastructure of volunteers, infrastructure of partners, and infrastructure of donors down in that area. And that takes money to do that. So when we went into this and we were dreaming, that's what we dreamed of. Our overall dream has always been, how can we move faster? How can we be down in the area where they were asking us to be, where clients were asking us to be? So this set us up for our long-term goal. Our long-term goal has always been, we needed another facility downtown. In South Fulton. We knew that. And that's always been our goal. So we built this grant, we dreamed on this grant around that concept and how we could really make that happen. And I am just elated to tell you, I was one of 3 recipients. You got a better chance this year. You got one of 4, but I was one of 3 recipients that received $91,000 to do those things I just went over. So as I thought about what I would share with you today when Impact100 asked me, can you speak to the potential recipients this year? I thought about what would I tell myself now knowing what I know? What would I go back and tell myself 2 years ago? So there's 3 things I would tell you. The first thing I would tell you is be creative. You got to dream big. I mean, just really dream big, even where you can't even see how would I possibly do that. But I know it needs to be done. Worry about the dream and just dream about it and say, okay, here's what we would do if we could do this. Really think about what does your organization need most? And don't do it in a vacuum. Ask your organization, what's the bridge to get you to where you're trying to get to the next 3 to 5 years? You got to really think about what is that thing that we really, really need, not what I need maybe now, but in 3 to 5 years, when I'm where I need to be, what would it that I need? What would it that I need to help me do that? How do you tell that story and share that story with passion? This grant and this organization will put you in front of a long-term audience, people who truly care about making an investment in Atlanta and doing it through your organization. They're a real-life partner, long-term partner. What you are about to undertake is so much more than just applying for a grant. So look at it really as I'm bringing on a partner that's going to help me do this. Not so much I got to write a grant, but look at it from a standpoint of I'm bringing on a partner. They're going to help me get this. So how do I tell them this story? The second thing I would tell myself is make time to do the work. This is a marathon. I just did not know that. It's a marathon. And I mean, I've run 3 marathons physically in my life, and I can tell you, yeah, it about feels like that. Okay. You think you're at the finish line, you're not at the finish line.
But it's worth it, right?
But it's worth it, right? You think you got everything done, you don't have everything done. So you got to know that going into it. That's what I would have told myself. John, this is a marathon. Even after you win, there's still requirements that you have to turn in. This grant, they just have a lot of mile markers, but the mile markers are designed to help you win. So look at it like that. God, they're asking me a lot, but all the stuff they're asking of you is designed to help you to win. So there's going to be meetings, there's going to be calls, there's going to be deadlines. You got to pay attention and ask questions. Call them again and again and again. They will always answer. And never have I ever reached out by text, by phone, by email, asking a question and nobody responded to me. That never happened. They're there for you. They'll pick the phone up, they'll call you. And remember, while this is me and your day job, it's not their day job. And they still are there for you. So don't just pencil with this. You're never bothering them. And even I found there was information they were asking for I had never been asked for from any other grant. And some of the stuff I was like, I don't even know what that is. And so rather than guessing what that is, pick up the phone and call them and say, I don't understand this. Can you help me clarify for me what this is that I need? Create a team to work on it. I was fortunate. I had a board. We have a board of about 15 and 3 people, my board president, my secretary. We just sat and when we first put this together, we just dreamt about, okay, what is it that we could do? And so it wasn't just me. And then I know it falls to a lot of executive directors. You look at it and think, it's just me. I got to figure this out. But to really make it impactful, think about bringing another team on. And the third thing I would say to myself, if I was thinking about talking to John today, I would say, John, tell your story with passion. Tell it with passion. No one knows your mission, your story better than you. Nobody, right? And all of us like a good story. But an elevator pitch that can be told with passion, that just sets you just apart. It totally sets you apart. Impact 100, they're no different. They like a good story. You got to tell that story. You got to tell it. You got to tell that story, and you got to tell it with passion, because that's what they're looking for. They're looking for that impact. How does this person, do they believe in what they're saying? Do they show that passion around what they're doing? And then they will align with you because they're going to get their juice from you. Because in a lot of cases, as McKinsey was saying, they don't know what it is you do. You have to sell that to them. And that's the 3 things I would tell myself is get creative, make time to do this work, and tell my story with passion. So I'll close, McKinsey, with this. And you can, if I'm missing something, you can just ask me. I'll close with this. This grant, this process, it grew me up. Honestly, it really did. It grew me up because there was stuff I was just going through sometimes. Just as all we all do, executive directors, we do. We're going all the time, and people are asking of us. Organizations asking of us, and this made me slow down as I was going through the whole process. It grew me up personally, and it grew up my organization too. When I'm applying for funding today, I see this thing totally different now. Totally different. And it's because of the experience that I did when I went through this. This organization is in a fight with you. They're there for you. They're not against you. They're not trying to stop you. They're there. They're on your side. And I always felt like, and still feel like, they're in the fight with me. So I have such admiration for this organization, what they do, the professionalism that they bring across, and just the way they carry themselves, and the standard that they hold themselves to. So I would just tell you, just embrace it. That's what I would tell you. Really embrace it. Because there are going to be things that you're going to look at and you go, I have no idea what this is. I could tell you personally, and I'll be honest, there were times I said, I can't do this. Or this just isn't worth it. The stuff that this just can't be worth it. But it was. And here I am 2 years later, still attached to them. They're attached to me. I can't get away from them.
Not that you're trying to.
Not that I'm trying to, but I love it because they're there with me. And when I talk about Impact 100 Atlanta, I always say, and this is coming from a father of 3 daughters, adult daughters now, these women rock. They just do. They rock what they're doing. You want to be a part of this. And I would say that even if I didn't win, because it was that impactful to me. It really did change the way we look at how we run our business.
Thank you so much, John. That was incredible. We know we can be hard,
No, you're not.
but we love our partners.
You do. Yes, you do.
And once you're in, you're in.
That's it. That's it.
Thank you so much. I so appreciate it. We have been answering lots of questions in the Q&A, so I'm going to take some time to read through those. I also see lots of questions in here about the focus areas, so I'm just going to bring those back up for us to look at, but please keep dropping them in. Lots of the questions that we're seeing are, how do we pick which one? It is truly up to you. We are happy to talk to you about them, but this is your decision, and we won't coach you toward one over the other. So just spend time, again, think through, as you think about the people reviewing this, they are women committed to philanthropy and committed to Atlanta who have selected each of these categories to be in, either because they're passionate about the topic or because the date works best for them. So think about, as John, I love how you talked about the passion around that. Think about which category you can write most passionately for, and then select from there. It can sometimes get down to a numbers game, but at the end of the day, if it's not compelling, if someone can't pick it up, imagine somebody picking up something you dropped on the ground that asks for money at the end. And whichever category you can write most compelling for, that's the one you should apply for, because essentially we are stepping into this. Our volunteers are stepping in with no background in your space. I will say that they will take time. All of us take time to look at the impact of your organization. So we'll drop your name into Google as an example, just to see if we aren't familiar with you, what you're doing out in there. So there's an option within the LOI for you to add any information about something that might be hitting the news that you just want to add context around. So we'll add that for you. That's a new option that we added to this application. So Jill and I are happy to have conversations with you around this, but again, we will push back to you ultimately deciding which focus area is best for you. So I'm going to drop this off screen and just talk through some of these questions. Please keep dropping them in for us. So let me just look at the ones. Sarah's been dropping in some answers, so just want to make sure everyone has a chance in there. There was a question around a capital request. Can it also be for equipment or vehicle? You just heard from John. Yes, absolutely. We love vehicles. We have funded a couple of vehicles. There's a section on our website that talks you through all of the past grants that we have made. And you can see that they're really tangible items, or really tangible experiences. So think through that piece too. As we talk through this grants process, John talked very honestly and candidly about what it's like to submit for an application with Impact 100, and it is a process. And ultimately at the end, so you are inviting us into your story through the LOI, through short, quick phrases. What's the most compelling piece? In the application, you have an opportunity to write a longer narrative. When you get to site visit phase, the committee itself is really your champions in this. So all of the questions they're asking are so that they know how to best position you for success when you get to finalist stage. As a finalist, you are presenting your project in front of, up to 365 women in the room who will listen to you speak for a couple of minutes and then vote. There are 2 pages that go out to them in advance. It's a background on it, but you are selling them on what you can speak most passionately about from the stage. So keep that in mind as you are picking your project. Ultimately, you will have to explain this to a group together. So just as you think through that, there's lots of questions around that. There's a question around submitting, reapplying, and Sarah offered some good guidance on that in the chat. 3 years after the grant award, so after the 2-year grant is complete, you can submit again. I think everything else we've talked through, but lots of good questions around how to select the focus area are in there. I'm going to look through too and keep scrolling. I see someone asking about the requirement for independent audits. You do not have to submit them with the LOI. That is correct. You will have to submit them with the application phase, and that's usually done or due mid-June. Honestly, I would tell you to reach out to us, send an email to grants at impact100atlanta.org, and we can help guide you on that one. When we do the LOI screening, we will look through to make sure based on your candid profile that it looks like you have 3 years of audit. So I'd rather have a heads up if you think one is just coming through, and we'll love to talk to you about that specific experience. Lots of cheers for John. I'll agree. John is incredible. We are so grateful for his wise words to us and those 3 coaches. Someone asked about how many we expect to receive. Last year, we received about 120 LOIs, and then we narrowed that down to 36 applications. So a big pool of cutting through that process. So I imagine we'll get more each year as we grow. We receive more LOIs. So again, as John said, sit and spend some time thinking about what's most compelling to this group. What is the site visit that'll happen in July to August? So we will come in. This is a great question. The committee will narrow down from the applications that they are reviewing to probably 3 to 4 organizations that they want to go on a site visit for. And that means they think they're ready for the next phase. During that site visit phase, a lot of our financial questions will come up. So we'll spend time talking about your budget. We'll spend time seeing your project in action. We'll also spend time coaching you on how to best tell your story as you get ready for the finalist phase. So it's really seeing which project in person comes to life best for us. I will say too, John talked about how we are with you throughout the process. For those of you who get to finalist stage, we also bring along, we have a professional coach that we hire to meet with you one-on-one so that you feel ready to present in front of our group. We know that's a different experience, and we so appreciate the time you're taking out of your day to do that work. So know that we also have a coach for you in that. Let's see, is the LOI being reviewed to decide if an applicant? Yes. So LOI is first phase. We'll read through that, make sure you meet certain criteria, and then our committee meets to narrow down that pool from 120. I'm trying to do the math in my head quickly to probably around 40 that would be forward to application phase. All of that is different. Those are just general numbers based on what we receive. So LOI first, then from there, you'll learn by end of May if you're moving forward to application process. If we don't have more than 25,000 in our bank account, we have never been audited. Yes. So that I would say that if you don't have more than 25 and you've never been audited, then you would not qualify. We require those audited financials regardless of size. So if that's an option for you, I would encourage you to find a partner to submit with, or yes. And I see if you partner with an organization, I would still, the way you can message it, if they're going to be your fiscal agent on this project, that's a question that we will ask you through that application and site visit phase. So those audits are required. The partner organization is required to do it as well. The budget that you'll submit will show how the dollars will flow between you and your partner on this. We will look to you to tell us how that happens. So think through all of that as you're writing your application. Can capital requests be for FF&E? Yes, they absolutely can. That's a great question. For a complex being built for those experiencing homelessness, great question. You are welcome to submit for that. Again, those tangible pieces are really compelling. So absolutely would submit that application. Oh, Aisha's sharing some good links in here. Thank you so much, Aisha. Hopefully you guys can see that. We are so grateful. Aisha has brilliant background and expertise in this. She's been so helpful in making sure our process is super strong this year. So for those submitting for the family focus area, get ready for Aisha. How many finalists do we select? So we're finalizing that number right now because there are 4 grants that we will be making ultimately. We will most likely, this needs to be approved by our board, but we just found out Wednesday night. We're excited about our making 4 grants. We will have between 5 and 10 finalists that will be coming to the end stage with us as we make that application. Aisha reminded us in the chat that there are spotlights and videos. I think John has an incredible video on the website, as others do too. So spend some time looking at that website. If you don't have this site, but we'll use a location. I'm not sure I understand the question around an actual site, but we'll use a location to do it. What site?
I think that's for site visits, probably.
Oh, yes. We'll meet at your office. We will go visit you wherever, we'll find a space. If we need to host it, we can. If it's not a physical space that we're investing in, that's fine. We will spend time probably meeting I would imagine, at that location to do it. Someone said we can't see the links that others are sending me. Okay, we'll make sure to send out all of these links out afterward to everyone. I see a question around the ideal operating size. And Sarah, I realize I'm running through all of these, so please feel free to chime in if I'm missing one or you want to add others too. I will say there isn't an ideal operating budget size. We talked through this quite a bit about, big or small. Most of the organizations we've submitted before, we've awarded so far are some lesser known projects that have an opportunity to be more known through this, which is an exciting one, but that's absolutely not a requirement. We are looking at sustainability of this project. So I would say there are probably organizations that are too small where we would see a grant of 89,000 being a big jump. If your operating budget is less than that, we might have questions around sustainability as we look at this project and how you're going to keep this impact going afterward. But all that to say, no requirements. I see someone put 2 million here as a question. There's no requirements on that. It's really about how you address the sustainability of this work on both ends of this. So if you're small, I would spend a lot of time addressing sustainability. If you're large, I would spend a lot of time talking about high impact. We want to make sure that we are not just a drop in the bucket, that this investment that we're making, like John said, is part of a long-term project. I see a couple notes in here about not being able to send the links. We will send those out afterward. I think that we have answered all of those questions, Sarah. I want to make sure I didn't miss one that you answered that we need to chat through. But yes, would invite any more of them. Oh, a couple more came through. Do we fund events that occur on one day, such as a youth conference? It's a good question, Michelle. You know, I would say we have not funded them yet. As we think about how to define transformational and the lasting impact of that, you know, we received some projects around that last year that did make it through from LOI to application, but knowing that this is an event and standing up next to something tangible, it might be a harder project to articulate. But I think, you know, if you all have really good outcomes to say about what the lasting impact is of your work, it's definitely not a requirement that you can't submit for that. But it depends on how well you write your application, I would say.
I would just add that from a sustainability perspective,
Yeah.
one might be tougher as well because it's something that might happen one day in 1 year,
Right.
but is that able to continue on with our funding?
Yeah, that's a great point. Like maybe if that were more a component of the overall project that shows how you're making impact here, that could be compelling. But as Sarah said, I think to think about sustainability as you think about high impact, as you think about transformational, that might be hard to quantify through this project. What if the plan is to have it each year? Again, if you can tell that story well, but we are looking again for that sustainability. So if this is to launch a pilot and you have a really strong plan in place for how you can do it in future years, perhaps that will work. But again, that I would also say I won't be the one reviewing this grant and voting on it within the focus area committee, but I would say if this is a recurring event that you've done in years past, then you probably don't need us to do it. But if there's a way that you can articulate that a grant can do something transformational and special and do something that you've never done before that doesn't feel like it's general operating support for an event, then go for it. But again, just there's not a requirement. I just would think through how to best articulate that story for impact as you're doing it. Any other questions? We've got a little bit more time. We will, like I said, on the front end, just logistics and all this, we will post this recording. We'll send it out to everyone who registered to attend. We'll also post it on our website. I think that I might have, thanks y'all for bearing with me with our technology here. I think that I can share some of these links that we've been talking through, but we'll absolutely put those in an email for everyone to see. We'll also make sure, again, like I said, reach out to grants. I'm going to drop this in the chat right now at impact100atlanta.org if you have any questions, and Jill and I will help you in that process. Applications are not open right now. They will go live this afternoon. So wanted to make sure everyone had a chance to listen to this webinar. There's a question on the application that asks if you participated in the webinar. That's not a requirement, but just want to note that we're spending a lot of time talking through the nuances of this. So please, if you're jumping on late, make sure to go back and look through it. Things to just think through as you're submitting that budget. You know, take the time to answer all the questions thoroughly. We do ask for some specific numbers in there, so read it. But hate for your application to get bounced because you put in 2 instead of 3 examples of outcomes. As you upload the budget, make sure you upload the right one and make sure that it shows exactly what that $89,000 would do for your organization. Staffing can be included. That'll get a higher level of scrutiny on the next part of that. Or as we go through the application phase, as we talk through how you're going to sustain this work beyond your impact. So just know that there's in that we do understand, we would understand seeing overhead in your budget as something that's building toward that sustainability. We know it takes a lot of people to do this work. So you're welcome to do that as well. I see someone asked me to repeat the email address. I dropped it in the chat, but it's grants@impact100atlanta.org. Martha, I see that your hand is raised. I'm going to let you talk if you want to jump in with a question, but that might be an accidental hand raise. So Martha, did you have a question?
No, ma'am, I'm sorry. It was an
Oh,
accidental.
no worries. I
Hey,
appreciate it.
everybody.
It shows me that you're paying attention. I love it. Thanks, Martha. Okay, well, any others? Like I said, let me make sure I'm not missing any of these. We'll sit here and let your questions. I know we've had last year there were some really good questions around what high impact looked like, and I loved how Sarah had answered it. Someone had said, if we had a chance to feed 10,000 people in a week or impact 100 lives, which one's more impactful? And Sarah just really well highlighted that as we look at long-term impact, that the depth of the impact for supporting 10 families has a stronger case. And the sustainability of that project. It's less a one-time instance that doesn't help anyone move their life forward versus the 100 families, teaching a man to fish. So think through that as well as you're doing this. Okay, I'm hearing no more questions. We're going to wrap. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, John. Thank you, everyone who joined us for this. We are so excited to open the application portal this afternoon. Just a reminder, those are due May 5th at 5 p.m. Spend time with your teams, as John said, being thoughtful and creative about something compelling. I know we're asking you to do all the things, but we promise to be there and be partners with you in the process. Reach out to grants at Impact100 Atlanta with any questions. Jill and I are here to support you in it. So thank you so much. We're so grateful. This work would not be important if it weren't for the work that you all are doing out in the community. So thank you all for what you do that inspires us to do what we do. So everyone have a wonderful rest of your Friday and a great afternoon. Thank you, guys.